Pretty Please, I Don't Wanna Be a Magical Girls pilot is blowing up on YouTube right now, and it might just change the scene for indie animation. In just a few weeks, it's racked up millions of views, proving that there's a massive audience hungry for fresh, unique stories outside of mainstream animation studios. But what exactly makes this project stand out, and how is it shaking up the way indie animation is made? This pilot, created by Kiana Smith, launched on February 28, 2025, and it quickly gained traction. Right now, it's already past 2.9 million views, which is a huge deal for an indie project. Most indie animations struggle to reach such numbers without significant external funding, but this one kinda had an advantage, as Kiana already had a fan base of people who were loving her art. She has been working as a storyboard artist on major projects like the Big City Greens and Pokémon. She had built a following through her professional work and personal art shared online, and that existing audience definitely helped boost the pilot's visibility right from the start. But as we can see, it's much more than that. The pilot managed to reach a wide audience thanks to its outstanding format, because unlike other animated pilots, which are usually fully animated, this one is an animatic, essentially a moving storyboard with voice acting and some basic effects. But actually, there's a small scene where we can see high effort animation, and ironically, it's the scene where the main character beats up the bad guy with a lead pipe. And while only releasing an animatic could sound like a limitation, it actually works in its favor. The characters, humor, and storytelling shine through even without full animation, proving that a strong concept and solid execution matter more than flashy visuals. It also makes it more affordable and realistic for indie creators who don't have millions of dollars to fund a pilot. Kiana had a tweet to respond to this one. Thank you, Kiana, for this wonderful, refreshing animated pilot. The indie scene as of late has become so obsessed with making fully animated pilots, which is a valid want, but in my opinion has made the ability to make pilots through crowdfunding almost impossible. To which Kiana wrote, "I went this direction because I didn't want to have to ask for money, and I also only gave myself 2 months to write, thumbnail, and board the entire pilot. The important thing for me was making something fun and getting my idea out there, and realized, while seeing a fully finished product is unbelievably cool, it's unrealistic for that to be the expectation for everyone. Just make your thing and play to your strengths." But the story itself plays with familiar tropes, but flips them in a way that feels modern and relatable. We get introduced to Aika, a 15-year-old who is a magical girl, but instead of being excited about it, like classic magical girls in anime, she absolutely hates it. She doesn't want the responsibility, the danger, or the crazy transformation sequences. The pilot leans into comedy, making fun of the genre's usual cliches while still respecting its tropes. And in the pilot, we see Aika's first day at school, where she meets this ordinary girl, Zira, who is more of an outcast and seems to have no friends, and instead she has the company of a book. Aika is fascinated by Zira's ordinary life, and after finding out about Aika's powers, Zira is fascinated by her magical abilities. The pilot also introduces Aika's sidekick Hoshi, her arch nemesis Eclipse, and an even more evil villain, Lady the Void, who seems to have an interesting relation to Aika. But additionally, Kiana Smith has spoken about what inspired this story, explaining that Aika's reluctance to be a magical girl is actually a reflection of her own experience in the animation industry. She shared in an interview, "Aika's outlook on her job is a parallel to my own experiences as an artist in the animation industry. I grew up loving art and making art, and always wanted to be a professional artist at some point. When I was hired at Disney, I had an amazing time and I loved it. But then there was a point where the industry just started to feel bleak. The work really started to feel like work, and I kind of lost sight of why I liked my job in the first place." So yeah, there's a more interesting element to the story. And based on Aika and Zira's dynamic, I can see the two supporting each other and helping each other to feel more comfortable with themselves. But the show draws a lot of inspiration from anime, especially Sailor Moon. Kiana Smith is a big fan of the magical girl genre, and we can of course spot these influences throughout the pilot, like the talking animal companion, the transformation sequence, and a teenage girl chosen to fight supernatural forces. But instead of making Aika a bright-eyed hero, the story flips the trope, making her cynical, annoyed, and wanting a normal life. And this twist makes the show relatable to both anime fans and those new to the genre. And what's great about this is that it strikes a balance. elements. It honors its anime roots without expecting the audience to be experts. With its humor, pacing, and character writing, the show feels like a modern animated series, something that could be enjoyed by both anime fans and newcomers. And to understand just how big the pilot is and how big it could become, we can compare it to another recent indie animation success, The Amazing Digital Circus. The show's pilot dropped in October 2023 and completely exploded, reaching over 100 million views within a few months. While Pretty Pretty Please, I Don't Wanna Be a Magical Girl isn't at that level yet, it's kind of following a similar trajectory, blowing up fast and proving that indie animation can capture mainstream attention. The key difference is that The Amazing Digital Circus had full animation, backed by Glitch Productions, while Magical Girl is a more independent effort in animatic form. But the growing numbers and audience interest suggest that it could reach similar heights if given the chance. But speaking of indie animation, let's just see how projects like this actually get made. Of course, animation is expensive, like extremely expensive. A fully animated pilot can cost anywhere from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the style and production quality. And that is why indie creators often rely on crowdfunding, Patreon, or personal savings to get their projects off the ground. And even then, most indie projects don't make it past the pilot stage unless they get picked up by a studio or find another way to secure funding. We've seen this happen before with other indie animation hits like Has Been Hotel, which started as an indie pilot in 2019 and eventually got picked up by A24, turning into a full-length series. Hell of a Bus, created by the same team, stayed independent but found massive success through YouTube and Patreon support. And more recently, Lackadaisy, which is an animated pilot based on a webcomic, gained huge popularity and crowdfunded enough money to produce more episodes. Pretty Pretty Please, I Don't Wanna Be a Magical Girl is now in a similar position because it has an audience, the hype, and the potential. So the big question is, what's next? Right now there's no official confirmation of a full series since the pilot literally came out less than a month ago, but the success of the pilot opens up several possibilities. It could attract studio interest, leading to a deal with a platform like Netflix, Hulu, or even a smaller indie animation distributor. Crowdfunding is another option, especially since the pilot has already proven there's a dedicated fan base. We might also see more animatics released as a lower budget way to continue the story, similar to how some webcomics expand their worlds through animated shorts before going full scale. But Kiana herself has been open about this process on her Tumblr, where she also answers fan questions. And there has been one interesting question about her next steps, asking about potential studio deals and maintaining creative control, to which she responded, "Development is new to me, and I'm sure if having full creative control was easy, everyone would do it. But I'm in the process of talking to studios, and I'm also shopping around looking for lawyers to hopefully give me a better chance. Though I'm in a unique position where studios are reaching out to me, so I'm hoping that will give me some leverage, but you never know." So this is a big deal. It hasn't even been a full month since the pilot came out, and Kiana is already being approached by studios. And that puts her in a much better position to negotiate terms that allow her to retain creative control, which is often a major concern for indie animators. If she plays her cards right, we could see Magical Girl developed into a full series without losing its original voice and charm. But what exactly does that mean for the future of indie animation? It definitely shows that indie creators can push boundaries and challenge the need for massive budgets or traditional studio control to succeed. Kiana is proving that with the right mix of vision, creativity, and timing, indie animators can make a huge impact, just like Pretty Pretty Please, I Don't Wanna Be a Magical Girl is doing now. So we have to wait and see if Magical Girl is going to become a full series, but one thing's for sure, it's already made a huge impact. Whether you're a longtime fan of indie animation or just discovering it, this pilot is a perfect example of why independent creators deserve more attention. So if you haven't watched it yet, now is the time to see what all the buzz is about. Check out the link in the description and make sure to subscribe for more videos. See you in the next one.